But thank you all for being here. This story I have, I just went for the mail. Literally, I just went to the post office, and out of that entry into Mammoth Hot Springs was one of the craziest wildlife encounters I've ever had in my 2.5 decades of living and working in Yellowstone. All that time as a guide, an artist, an educator, this experience is definitely one of the top tiers of the cake. I went to the post office, like the post office usually is. Nothing in the box but junk mail, some postcards. What was really cool though, what was laying in the grass between the post office and the visitors center there in the park. It was a huge, huge bull elk and his harem of 30 to 40 females. And they're just laying out there in this most sublime setting. So I said, this is it. This is my space, my happy place. So I parked it right next to this cottonwood tree. Safe distance from the elk, of course. And I'm sitting there just enjoying the morning light, sifting through the golden leaves of that September cottonwood above me. And this bull was asleep, or kind of asleep, because he'd been up all night. It was the rut, right? He'd been busy all night long. So as I'm sitting there, I see him, he's got his eyes closed, kind of like this, and he's breathing, and he's rocking back and forth as he's breathing. And I, just kind of like with the dragon breath there, I was like, I start breathing with him, and just to feel some semblance of what it's like to breathe through those lungs. And his eyes are twitching, he's got the REM sleep thing going, right? His eyes are twitching, and those giant antlers are kind of drooping his head down and twisting it toward the earth. It was a beautiful, enormously settling scene, but it wasn't gonna last. So we get to live with wildlife in close proximity, living in Gardner, living in Yellowstone, and it's not always easy, right? You have these transcendent moments, and then you have these moments that you're like, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing ever. Like that poor nest full of baby birds that all of a sudden are transitioned into lumps in the belly of a bull snake. Oh man, it's just brutal out there. But we live by these rhythms. Our family lives by these rhythms. It affects the way we walk out the door so we don't scare the cottontail rabbit that's just past the fence. We walk in different places in winter because the deer are wintering in those spots and we want them to be able to continue to stay there. We walk around another place because the elk are calving in those places. And we know, my wife will, especially, they'll chase you really, really intently if you don't get the heck out of there real fast. But we don't do these things and make these concessions because we have to. There's no rules. We do it because these creatures have taught us so much. I have learned so much from the mule deer, so much from the magpies, that this is an act of reverence. Going back to the elk in Mammoth, it wasn't just any bull elk. You have to understand this quite clearly off the bat. This was bull elk number 6, and some of you in here know him. He was this incredible, top of the heap, enormous bull elk. He had these huge, wide sweeping antlers that turned up into over a dozen ivory-tipped daggers. Okay? And on that morning, he's chill, he's cool. It was a long night, the cows are sitting there and they're kind of chewing like this. And I kind of can't help, I'd start, can my jaw do that? And they're chewing their cud. And it was so serene, right? That is until a little man with an equally little camera comes off the back steps of the visitor center, and he starts not walking, he's creeping, he's doing this thing toward the elk, right? And he's getting closer. He gets to within 10 yards, which is way inside the park's limit of 25 yards, right? And he clicks. And it was one of those, it was in the age where it's still like those disposable, point and shoot cameras. And he runs back to the back steps of the visitor center. But the cow elk jump up and they start going nuts. They're running, and the bull snaps out of his sleep and he goes berserk. And he starts running around, and he's got that look in his eye, like you can see the whites in his eyes, right? And his nostrils are dilated about twice their normal size. And he has that look about him, it's like he's gonna say, I'm gonna do something crazy. I'm gonna do something really crazy here. And he starts running toward me. Not the guy who did the deed. I barely have enough time to jump in the truck. And he goes flying by me between my truck and the vehicle parked next to me. You know how close that is to have the power of this bull running by inches away, the power of him cruising through there, blocking the entire view of the window for just a fraction of a second. He rounds up all his girls, thankfully. He brings them back. He can finally settle down just a little bit. And the little man with the little camera comes off the back steps of the visitor center again. He comes down, same exact thing. And I'm thinking, like, does anybody see this guy? Where's a ranger when you need one? But no, this is usually the way it unfolds. Comes down again, click! The whole thing unfolds almost exactly the same. I don't even have time to get into the vehicle this time. I jump on top of the truck. And this mayhem. I'm like, jeez, I'm crying out loud. I come down off the truck, and the bull swings around through the other parked cars, and he's looking for somebody to beat up. The little guy with the little camera is not anywhere to be seen, of course. But what is there is right near where he was is a red Subaru Forester. Bull 6 lines up, and he creams this thing. He hits it so hard, the vehicle rocks back and forth. He just caves in the rear passenger side door. He backs up again, boom! He hits the front driver's or passenger side door. And by this point, a friend from the Park Service, a biologist, he's standing next to me. He's like, dude, is there anybody in that car? I'm like, I don't know, I've been here a while. I haven't seen anybody go in it, nobody come out. And literally in that instant, the car started up and drove away. Oh shit, I guess there was. And then, things mellowed for a few minutes, enough that we could just, have a usual conversation, which amounted to talking about one of the really neat things of living close to wildlife is that you get to learn the individual personalities of these more than human individuals, right? So he's telling me, I think of bull elk number 10, who was 6's principal adversary at that time. I think of 10 as kind of this sophisticated, like tweed jacket, leather elbow patches kind of guy. You could see him saying to the cows, like, darling, I fancy you. I love those shining hooves of yours, those velvet ears, and that mask you're wearing. Oh, it's just bewitching. How about we go have a glass of sherry and get to know each other better, shall we? Whereas we both agree, bull elk number 6 is like the raging frat boy in the ripped tank top who just finished a keg stand yelling, woo! Let's get the run on! At this point, it's still relatively calm. But for the third freaking time, the guy, the little man with the little camera comes off the visitor center porch. More people have already amassed. There's more Park Service folks out there. One of them even has a clipboard, and she's handing out paper affidavits to the Subaru driver to tell the insurance company that, yes, indeed, my car was rammed by an elk in Yellowstone. But here it comes again. Little man with a little camera. He kicks them all up, and this time, the third time, is the charm. The cows are everywhere. Bull elk 6 can't control them. Running everywhere, through the cars, around the administration building, past the visitor center, and his fire is lit. Bull elk 6 is in rare form. He's enraged. He's tearing around. He runs through the cars, and he comes back into the grass between the visitor center and the post office. The Subaru is gone, but in the melee, nobody realized that a maroon minivan had pulled into its spot. He comes into the grass and he's already lined up. Before he can even get to the minivan, the people inside are screaming. You could hear them screaming. The driver guns it. He slams on the accelerator and goes, and he goes nowhere because it's in park. Boom! The glass pops. Bull 6 drives the dagger tine, that longest sword in his arsenal, right through the back driver's side window in the far back. Pop! glass just cascades into the vehicle, all over the people, and the sound from in the vehicle transitions to out of the vehicle. So instead of it's the bull is covered in glass. He's kind of backs up in recoil, shaking off the glass, clearing it off his neck and face, but it's over. His love life is shattered. It's done. There aren't even pieces to pick up. And he just walks off. That season alone, I watched many instances of him goring and attacking more than the 70 vehicles that he hit that year. A good portion of it. It got so bad that they eventually tranquilized him and cut his antlers off. And they did it twice. Who gets punished? Not the little man with the little camera. It's bull elk number 6, or the grizzly bear, or the buffalo, right? You've seen this narrative play out over and over. So, unfortunately, that guy didn't get his just desserts. Probably some duct tape, putting him up against the Subaru for a few minutes for bull elk 6 to really, let him know what he thought would have been great. But no, we couldn't do that. But these times really distill down for me why it's so important to have wild places. We need them to calibrate what normal actually is, right? These creatures, again, like I said, have taught me so much. Like watching wolves. The Nez Perce friends I have also say this, like how to be a good parent. Watch the wolves. How do you be a good steward of the next generation? Watch the bison. These creatures are better than us in so many ways. They can smell things, hear things in the distance. I don't even hear something until I see the elk's head turn. It's not about getting the photos. It's not even about my completing a sculpture. That's the very tip of the iceberg. The more substantive piece of this is the relationship. It's the lessons. It's the things we take home that help us look at our own bad day and think, well, compared to bull elk 6s, mine is still pretty good. So get out there. You have to get out there. It is always worth it, even if it's 10 minutes. But whatever you do, don't, and I repeat, don't be the little man with the little camera. Thank you.